Welcome, one and all, to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, you had a great weekend and you are getting off to a great start in the final week of August. And Stephen Tolbert, for Braves fans and Braves country, I think there's something that many of us have been waiting to hear. Football starts this weekend, and I can't wait. That's kind of that being something that's being said on August 24th, and that being more exciting to hear than the Braves entering September. Definitely not a good sign of the season that we've had, but hey, we're here, we've arrived. But the thing is, we've still got 5 weeks of Braves baseball, plenty to talk about, including, if you're a fan of pitching matchups, a pretty exciting game in that perspective tonight between Edward Cabrera and Spencer Strider. And the thing is that with Spencer Strider, Stephen, it was an improved start in terms of results.
Yeah, what's up, buddy? Yes, football season, the countdown to football season started about a month ago in Braves country, unfortunately. And, we haven't had many of these seasons. In fact, relative to expectation, we haven't had a season like this in most of our lifetimes, quite honestly. I mean, they had the 2015, 2016, 2017 seasons, but those teams were expected to be bad. A team that was supposed to be good and not making the playoffs, it's been a long time for this team. Especially, they had the September collapses, but like to be this bad this early, it just hasn't happened. Like Braves fans just aren't used to going through this. And so they don't really know how to respond. And I'm right there with them. I mean, it's been a weird feeling the last couple of weeks. Just kind of playing out the string, looking forward to football season. Still following baseball. I'm still excited for the playoffs. I'm going to watch the playoffs, of course, but yeah, it's a weird feeling. So we're kind of looking for these little individual moments to highlight, to talk about, to maybe look forward to next year. And we had Spencer Strider starting tonight. And of course, this has been the topic the last few weeks is Spencer's just been bad. Like there's really no sugarcoating it. He's been, I talked about it, I think with Scott at one point, but like, it might've been me and you, but like, the idea of having to kind of survive Spencer Strider starts so that you can thrive in Hurston Waldrop starts is just such a weird place to be, but that's where the Braves have found themselves. And so, every time he takes the mound like tonight, it's notable. And he made some changes tonight that we're going to talk about. And I don't know if they're, long-term changes or if they were just matchup based, but it was interesting nonetheless. And he had a good night tonight. The Braves didn't win. They lost 2-1. They lost, Edward Cabrera just kind of kicked their ass tonight. But Strider made some interesting adjustments that we're going to talk about.
And Mark Bowman of MLB.com mentioned it best, I think. So many people have had different opinions about what kind of has fell off or declined or regressed for Strider so far this year. The velocity, the movement, the placement. I think all those things have played a part in, him going into tonight, coming off arguably the worst 3-start stretch of his career. Those things still were not perfect tonight. You could still clearly see that there were times where he was still struggling with displacement, struggling with movement, all that different stuff. The Miami Marlins, who are not themselves name-wise a prolific offense, they hit the ball very hard tonight on many occasions. That still was true. And ultimately, that is something that Spencer Strider is going to have to figure out how to limit. But what I'm getting at with Mark Bowman is that he said, we could talk about all the different details that we want, but run prevention did occur tonight. And run prevention occurred coinciding with the fact that Spencer Strider made some changes to his overall approach of how he set up hitters, of the arsenal that he used in different parts of the at-bat, in different counts. And sometimes it's that simple. It's just simple enough to where you need to change the direction, to go from I've tried this, and every time I'm getting shelled, but this time I was successful. It may not have looked as dominant or it may not have looked as good as I had wanted it to, but something worked. So at the very least tonight, I think that the emphasis, instead of going as specific as possible, it's important to talk about what he changed up in terms of his approach, but at the very least, he saw results change. And we talked about instead of shutting him down, Strider and the Braves probably wanted to set him up to have a success, to have a chance to have a successful into the season. This was a good step in what that is being a right direction, I think, to enter the offseason.
Yeah, so listen, tonight he just used his other pitches more. He came into the night throwing his changeup about 3% of the time. And tonight he threw his changeup 10% of the time. So, he tripled the usage of his changeup. His curveball, same thing. It's been in the, around the 5% range for most of the year. Tonight it was at 12%. So he more than doubled his curveball usage. We've talked about this before, but in 2022, 2023, Spencer was one of the best pitchers on the planet. In 2022, Spencer threw his fastball 67% of the time, which is crazy. That's how good his fastball was. In 2023, he threw his fastball 60% of the time, which is also crazy. But again, that's how good his fastball was. Tonight, for most of the night, his fastball usage sat around 38%. I think the last 5 pitches he threw in the game were all fastballs, so that bumped it up to like 40 or 41% to end the night. But he spent most of the night with a fastball usage in like the mid 30s in terms of percentage. And that is very different for him. And that was notable. And a lot of people watching the game were just noticing how many more sliders, how many more curveballs, how many more changeups he was throwing. Now, again, it's one start, and this could have been just matchup specific. It could have been individual matchup specific in terms of actual hitters, or just could have been team specific to the Marlins. Or he could have not planned on doing this at all, got out to the mound and didn't feel like his fastball had anything. So he made an adjustment on the fly. So we don't know if this is kind of like a new thing for him. But when you see a guy who used to throw his fastball 67% of the time, throw it 38% of the time in a start, you need to make note of that, right? That's why we're talking about it. It's because it's notable. And we'll see. He did have a better night tonight. He did not have as much swing and miss as I'm sure he would want. He had 3 strikeouts. There was still a lot of hard contact, and he probably got a little fortunate that he only gave up the 1 run that he gave up, which was the homer, I think. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was a homer. So we'll see. It's just it's an interesting data point. We talked about, is he going to make adjustments? What are those adjustments going to be? This is the first game where we saw like real adjustments. And, the next time out, we'll see if this continues, if this was just matchup based, but it's notable.
Yeah, and if the velocity on the fastball is a bit slower than it has been in the past, if you flash more of the off-speed stuff, that naturally can make the fastball look a bit faster if it is at a slower speed overall. So it's also just changing up what hitters are seeing. And I'll give Strider credit. Probably, again, a bit of luck, but there was efficiency there, right? Only 3 strikeouts across 7 innings, but still 95 pitches in 7 innings. That's pretty efficient. Only 55 of those were strikes, so, not the highest strike percentage. But again, it just comes down to sometimes, Stephen, it just comes down to a pitcher just have a successful game. And I think that that's what Strider really was looking for. I don't think that this in any way, shape, or form convinces Strider that, hey, he's clearly on his way back to being himself. I think he's smart enough to know that's probably not the case. But at the very least, it's nice for him, probably for a mental aspect, to not come out of a start once again thinking, just what can I do to just have a bit of success, instead of coming out of tonight thinking, okay, I didn't have my best stuff, but I was resourceful enough to still get the job done. I did my job. For Spencer Strider, he puts a lot of pride in doing his job, and tonight he did. That's something he hasn't been able to say for quite a while. It's nice for him to be able to be in that position.
Exactly. And I want to mention that we've talked a lot about how much velocity Spencer has lost. There are plenty of pitchers in Major League Baseball that have tons and tons of success throwing a fastball 95, 96 miles an hour. It's not like you can't pitch at this level, throw a 95, 96. I mean, I think Spencer's fastball is still above average in terms of, I think the average is like 95.1 or something like that. And I think Spencer's is like 95.6. So, like, of course you can pitch at this level with that fastball. What Spencer has never had to do that those other pitchers have had to do and have learned how to do is how to use the entire arsenal to help set up that fastball and how to locate that fastball in places that it's going to have success and how to keep it out of places where it's going to get lit up. That's what Spencer's never had to do because he used to throw 100 miles an hour and it didn't matter where he threw it. And so that's what we're that's the journey he's going to be on top of hoping to get some of that velocity back once he gets back to a normal offseason this offseason. It's learning how to pitch at that velocity by using all of your other pitches. Like he's got 4 pitches. He's got a curveball. He's got a changeup. He's obviously got the slider, which is his second best pitch. But if you use those correctly and if you locate them correctly, it all makes your fastball play up, right? This is the journey that Herschel Waldrop has been on about learning how to use other pitches and location to make your fastball play up. So he can do it. And, we've talked about how competitive he is, how much of a psycho he is in the best way possible. We mean that as a compliment. And this is what we're talking about. He's going to make adjustments. He's not just going to sit there and beat his head against the wall, trying the same thing over and over. At some point, the kid was going to make an adjustment. And so it was just fun to see that tonight. And, it's something to track for the rest of the season and then moving into next season.
And I think also it's worth mentioning that as good as Spencer Strider was in 22 and 23, some may just think, okay, well, if he's this good, if he's this elite, then if he needs to make an adjustment, that means that he's going to do it in a much quicker fashion than just your average pitcher when it comes to how he pitches. But that's not necessarily the case for elite star pitchers when the reason why they were elite or why they were among the best in the game is what has regressed a bit, right? Like it was his velocity and it was the overall control of his fastball. And we're not just talking about one of the better fastballs in baseball. I think that if you asked around baseball, many would say that in terms of starters, Spencer had the best fastball in baseball in 22 and 23. Everything that he did worked off the fastball. That's what made his other pitches elite. Well, now he's having to figure out, at least for the time being, how to use other pitches to make his fastball better. That's a complete 180 in the overall mentality for a pitcher. So it's not, so just because a pitcher is a superstar at one point in their career, if they've got to adjust what makes them so effective, if they've got to go about it in a different way, it may actually take them longer to do that than your normal pitchers because they've been so used to having so much success off the same source. So that's what I'm saying. This isn't just a start where he's going to figure it out. When we talk about the offseason really needs to come for Spencer Strider and come in a successful way, again, the confidence is there he's going to figure it out. But you've got to be able to understand he's got to have time to do it as well.
Yeah. And listen, again, I'm going to say this number again. In 2022, he threw his fastball 67% of the time. That's banana. That's what like relievers do. Like that as a starting pitcher, that's crazy. That's crazy. And so not having that weapon, or at least the version of that weapon that he had, is going to be a massive adjustment. Not a little adjustment, a massive adjustment. And again, we're still hoping that some of that velocity comes back next year. We're not just completely giving up on that. But in the meantime, he's kind of make do with what he has. And tonight was a good step in that direction. Again, it was one start. We have no idea. He might go back to his normal usage the next start. This might have been all about the Marlins. This might not have been anything he was doing other than just matchups. So we're not going to draw any conclusions off of one start. But it's just it's a data point to kind of mark, and then we'll see what the next one looks like.
Never underestimate the power of a positive data point. As things, if that line graph that's measuring whatever in your life, if that line graph that you're seeing keeps going down, 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 but you eventually get to that data point that just goes up, never underestimate the power of how positive that side is. But speaking of positive developments, we certainly saw one for Drake Baldwin tonight as well. Despite the loss, a good game from Drake Baldwin. And right now, that may matter more than you think in what has become a very close race for the NL Rookie of the Year. More on that in just a moment after a word from our partners.
FT fam, welcome to the world's most comfortable swimwear. For a moment, we are talking about Fair Harbor. We actually have some show and tell today. This is the liner that you're working with inside of the shorts and the bathing suits.
You know what the best part is about this, Scott?
What?
They have a lot of different options because these are clearly yours because I would never order this pattern, but
that
they
is
look
so
great
me.
on you.
That is so me.
These are so you. Mine are a little bit more plain than this.
Yes.
But they are super comfortable. The liner, I love liner shorts. Some people don't. But these liners are better than most that I've had on, if not all of them.
Yeah,
because
this is the best liner out there.
No mesh. All of the above is perfect.
Exactly. It's really good. You got to give it a shot. Also, fun random fact, you get a new shirt. It smells really good. So head to fairharborclothing.com/FOUL and use code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. Once again, fairharbor, HARBOR clothing.com/FOUL for 20% off your first purchase and use that promo code FOUL so they know FT sent you.
So, Stephen, coming into the second half of the season, we made it clear that one of the biggest storylines that was going to be there for Braves country to follow was how Drake Baldwin and the NL Rookie of the Year race would continue to shape up as time went on. The AL Rookie of the Year race, it's taken care of. Nick Kurtz has been unbelievable for a few months now. Roman Anthony, I don't think he's going to make it close, but he is unbelievable to watch as well. But on the NL side of things, many have reason to watch Drake Baldwin. He was a clear favorite about a month ago. And of course, if he wins, that could mean extra draft capital and what should be a very critical draft for the Braves in 2026. But thing is for Drake Baldwin is that it now has become a much closer race, and it actually has become a three-man race. About 2 weeks ago, Isaac Collins of the Brewers, when the Brewers were just unbelievably hot, I believe he had that 15-game hitting streak, rightfully so, our winning streak. Isaac Collins was a big reason. He was playing better than Drake Baldwin at that time. But both of those players have cooled off over the past week or so, and Cade Horton, pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, has entered the fray as well. So we're basically now in a three-horse race for the NL Rookie of the Year campaign. The point that I'm getting at is, unfortunately, it's become a much closer race than many of us had hoped. But the fortunate thing is, it very much is still in Drake Baldwin's hands to be able to make the most of this.
Yeah, so if you look at the odds on DraftKings, Horton, Collins, and Baldwin are all very close. Like, it's one guy is like a 1-3-4 hit game away from taking the lead. So it's very much neck and neck. The thing that's going to hurt Drake is that the Brewers and the Cubs are both playing for playoff spots. Like, Cade Horton and Isaac Collins are doing this for teams that are winning and therefore are just going to be in the spotlight more. Drake's playing for a team that's, a million games under 500 and back of a playoff spot. So he's got to be that much better. And unfortunately for Drake, he has cooled off quite a bit. I think his last multi-hit game was on like August 9th. He's been pretty pedestrian for about 2 weeks now. He did have a homer and a walk tonight, which is what you're talking about. So it was a nice bounce back. And he was quite literally the Braves' only offense tonight. But yeah, I mean, other guy, Drake certainly hasn't had quite the second half that he had in the first half. And so he's allowed other guys to kind of come into the race. But also you got to give those guys, those guys are just having great seasons as rookies. Cade Horton's got like a 2.8 ERA for a team that's currently got a playoff spot. So, some of it's just, you got to give credit to other good players, but it's still such a close race. This is not a Nick Kurtz situation where there's just a runaway winner. Drake is probably one hot week away from being the clear favorite again. That's how close it is. So good night tonight. We looked it up. He's played in about 70% of the Braves games in August. I think he DH'd in 2 of those and caught the rest. So, I would probably prefer it to be more like 75%, but to be honest, Sean Murphy and Marcell Ozuna have been just as cold lately. Sean Murphy just broke a massive, I think he was like 0 for 34 or something like that. He broke that last night. Marcell has gone into a pretty big slump himself. So I'm sure Brian Snitker is just, mixing and matching on any night just to try to get some production out of any of those guys. But again, Baldwin has played about 70% of the time. You can't really say he's not been given a chance. He's just gone cold. And listen, he's a rookie. I mean, he wasn't going to run a 140 WRC plus all season long. He was going to hit us some cold spells. So we'll see. We'll see if they keep giving him the playing time. I very much hope they do. And hopefully he can get hot and put this, get back out in front of this thing and maybe bring it home.
Yeah, and I agree that, to the point that, he has cooled off a bit, that certainly is a factor in it. And I know that you got to get all three of the guys playing times as well. But the one thing that I feel, the one thing where I think the Braves are making a mistake is if he's not the priority of the three to be given the playing time. Like, in my opinion, we looked it up over the past 2 weeks. Shawn Murphy had played 6 times. Baldwin had played 8 times. Marcell Ozuna now has played 13 times. There should not be that much of a difference between Baldwin and Ozuna's playing time, in my opinion. Baldwin should be playing between DH and catcher. If it's a 2-week span, he should be playing double-digit games. And it's not even about Rookie of the Year, nor is it about that draft pick. That should play into it, but set that to the side. It's also just simply Baldwin going through a stretch of the season where he's had the wear and tear of the majority of the season now wearing on him. He needs to work through that, right? If he's going to eventually be the Braves' primary catcher. They've also been sitting him quite a bit against left-handed pitching. I don't think that's doing him any favors when he has clearly been producing against left-handed pitching. These are opportunities that you want him to continue to have success in, because that's where it's going to allow for him to be able to have a better chance of sustaining it as the league becomes more used to him. He gets more playing time. It becomes more important for him to play every day in the future. So that's why I feel like it makes sense for them to play him as much as possible. I don't mean to be on my soapbox. From my perspective, it comes down to winning Rookie of the Year and getting that extra draft pick. But there are many other factors that are going to be more important in the future when we're trying to win again, that if Baldwin has success now, it lines him up for a better chance to have success again when it matters more in the future.
Yeah, I don't love that they're just kind of blanket sitting him against left-handed pitching like they have the last couple of weeks. And even if you don't believe in like his early success, it's not a ton of games. It's a small sample size of splits that he's had success. And even if you don't believe those are fully real, you still want him to develop against lefties. You still want him to see lefties. And I've talked about this before, about how quickly now in the majors, left-handed hitters get platooned. Like a lot of teams don't even let you try, or they let you try for a very small amount of time. And if you don't have success, you're just a platoon guy. Drake has had success against lefties. He's actually hit lefties. At one point, he had hit lefties better this year than righties. I don't know if that's still true, but I do want to see him play against lefties again. Even if you don't believe his success is completely real, if it might be a little noise in there, you still want him to develop. So, but all that being said, I think what has cost Drake in terms of where he is in the Rookie of the Year right now is he just hasn't played as well when he's gotten the chances. And so that's really what, he's just going to have to find it again. He's just going to have to get hot. Again, he's been playing about 70% of the time. It could definitely be more. I wish they would play him more against lefties, but the big thing is, like tonight, when he's in there, he's got to produce. So, and again, he's going up against 2 guys that are in playoff races. And you're already kind of playing with one arm tied behind your back, because there are voters who don't like giving these awards to guys who are on bad teams. I don't agree with that, but that's how they view it. Now, it'd be pretty hypocritical since Nick Kurtz is running away with the Rookie of the Year from, the A's, who are a million games back. That actually should help Drake a little bit, kind of ignore that argument. Boston is in the playoffs and the A's are not, but Nick Kirk is running away from Roman Anthony in Rookie of the Year. So that should help Drake, but he's got to play better, pretty simply.
Absolutely. And hopefully he'll be given those chances. And like I say, I know that many people will have different perspectives, but the thing is that there's plenty of reasons to give Baldwin as many chances as possible. And to your point, Hopefully this all quiets down if tonight can be the start of another 7 to 10 day stretch where Baldwin can really once again set himself ahead of the pack in the NL Rookie of the Year chase. But speaking of more positive developments, I know tonight is not the best example, but overall here recently, the Braves offense has looked clearly better than they were in the first half. What's been the big difference? Why? And does it mean that a corner has been turned for the future? We'll discuss that in just a moment.
Okay, KP, this is your first Arena Club experience. We're going to open a slab pack together. So first off, we're going to buy one of those $25 slab packs, and we get to see what is in the pack. There it is. The Grail, which is the best card in the pack and worth the most. There are some other cards that we're chasing, and you can see the entire lineup so that you know what you're in the running for. There's the Yamamoto signed card. Now, let's open up our pack and see how we do. We have ourselves a really cool graphic, and then a Shohei Ohtani 50-50 card from last year. What do you want to do? Should we sell it right back to them for 16, or should we keep it?
You should give it to me. I'll keep it.
Good answer. Fine, I will give it to you. Since the Blue Jays didn't get Ohtani, you can get this 50-50 card instead. Use the code FOUL, F-O-U-L, to get yourself 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase. Yes, you get to keep that card if you want it. They send it to you. FOUL at arenaclub.com/foul.
So, Stephen, obviously one of the things that has made this second half a bit more bearable than the first half was, we knew that with the pitching injuries that, the writing was on the wall that we just were not going to make this season. The goals that many of us had for this season were just not going to be reached. We weren't going to make the playoffs, call it a lost season, what have you. But the clear thing is that it's been a bit more fun because the offense has improved over the past 6 weeks. And looking it up, one of the biggest reasons why is because this team clearly has improved in one area that was one of the two biggest complaints about this offense over the past 13 to 14 months going into the All-Star break. They have clearly taken a step forward with runners in scoring position. In the second half of the season so far, the Braves right now are 11th in Major League Baseball in offense with runners in scoring position. They have a 128 WRC plus with runners in scoring position. That is really, really encouraging and a big difference from where they were for much of 24 and the first half of 25. Now, the reason why they're having that success, their overall approach at the plate has been quite good. They are, with runners in scoring position in the second half of the year, they are 6th in strikeout rate and 2nd in walk rate. This team has showed patience. They've shown better selectivity at the plate, and it's led to better results. That is definitely encouraging. But Stephen, while it's encouraging and it's an improvement, we're looking for sustainability. We're looking to get back to being a winning organization, so we need to figure out how to find success and sustain it. And while it's encouraging to see this improvement, I think this is only a half or third of the offensive equation that we need to really get back to where we were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so it's interesting. The offense is undoubtedly better right now than it was earlier in the year. Now, obviously, tonight's game, Edward Cabrera just smoked him for 7 innings. He's kind of nasty, to be honest. The guy throws 100 miles an hour he throws a 93 mile an hour changeup.
When he's on, I think he's getting a bit more consistent. But the one thing that I failed to mention in the first part of the show, he can be just as impressive as Sandy Alcantara or Yuri Perez when he's on. When he's on, he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, he's nasty. He's nasty as hell. And the Braves had nothing for him tonight. Yeah, 10 strikeouts in 7 innings and not much hard contact at all. So tonight's game notwithstanding, the offense has looked better. But like Shawn said, what we're looking for is a model that is sustainable for 6 months. And I was actually watching the game yesterday, and I was thinking about this. Is this current model of the Braves offense sustainable for 6 months? And what's it being built on, right? It's being built on a ton of walks, which is sustainable. I think walks are maybe the most underrated offensive stat in the sport. I actually have come to believe that walk rate on an individual level may be the most important offensive stat because it reveals so much about the type of hitter you are. If you just go through any stats page, any website you like to use, and just sort all the best hitters in baseball by walk rate, and then you go look at the names, you'll see the best hitters in baseball. I mean, you'll see Ronald Acuna Jr., Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, like Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber. Like the best hitters in baseball take a bunch of walks. And I have come to believe that walk rate is very important. And so the fact that the Braves have increased their walk rate as much as they have in the second half is maybe the most encouraging part of what has happened, because I do believe you can build a sustainable long-term offense with walk rate. In fact, I think you have to have that as part of the equation. And this is something I think the Braves have missed, especially when Acuna's out. Acuna and Olsen have always been their best guys in terms of walk rate. But now you got other guys joining the party. And I think that's crucial. Profar is a big part of that. Marcell has been walking a bunch. Ozzie has been walking way more this year than he has. Michael Harris is still not taking any walks, but it is what it is at this point. But I think walk rate is important. So that's one thing. But the other thing that's being built on the offense right now is it's being built on this like white hot Michael Harris run, which I don't really believe in, if I'm being 100% honest. I'm not going to poo-poo it completely because it's valid what he's done. But if you're asking me, is this sustainable for 6 months? I don't believe it. Again, he doesn't ever walk. And I just went through a whole list of reasons why I think walk rate is so important. So I don't believe that part is sustainable. The other part that is worrying to me is that the homers are so far down. Like Matt Olson has 2 homers since the All-Star break. Ronald Acuna Jr. has 3. Obviously, he was hurt. But the thing I want to see from this offense, because they built it around a bunch of sluggers, is I want to see walks and homers. Because those are the 2 things with this group of players that I know for a fact they can sustain for 6 months, because I've seen them do it. What I don't think you can sustain it on is hoping Michael Harris is just out of his mind or Jerks and Profar going crazy. I think the walks are crazy encouraging. I want to see the homers get back to where we saw them in like 2020, not even 2023. What they did in 2023 is crazy. You're not going to see 307 homers in a season again, but like just in the top 10 in baseball in homers, that's perfectly attainable for this group. And in my opinion, it's sustainable because the Braves are some of the streakiest hitters you will ever see. And the one way to score runs, even when you're going through bad streaks, is homers, because somebody can take a walk and one guy can pop a homer and it's 2 runs, right? It's just 2 runs instantly. And that's what the Braves were built on for years is, all right, we might only have 2 or 3 guys going at the moment. The rest of the lineup is cold as ice, but we're popping homers. We're still scoring runs. We can still win games. That to me is the sustainable version of the offense that they've been missing for the last 2 years, is walks and homers. And that's what I want to get back to. And the walks have been fantastic to watch. I want to see the power come back in this lineup. I want to see Matt Olson. Matt Olson's going to hit he's got 20 homer or 19 or 20 homers through, 600 plate appearances. That's kind of wild, to be honest with you. There's just not the same. I think Marcell Ozuna has like 20 homers. I think 20 leads the team. There's like 50 guys in baseball that have hit more than 20 homers. And none of them are Braves. So that's the part I want to see. That's the next step where I think this offense can sustain itself for 6 months, is walks and homers, because that's the personnel they built it around.
Yeah, the difference between a 6-week sample size and a 6-month sample size and what's going to lead to success. In the second half of the season, which basically, it's been, 5 weeks. We'll give it 5 weeks or so. But in the second half of the season, here are a couple of homer tallies for the Braves. Michael Harris leads the team with 10 home runs. Jurickson Profar and Marcell Ozuna are second, tied with 7. So Michael Harris has hit 10. Jurickson Profar has hit 7. Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Matt Olson have combined for 7 home runs in the second half of the season. So it's really encouraging, yes, to see players, but again, that's the difference between a 6 weeks and a 6-month sample size when it comes to sustaining offense. You've got to be able to have your best players contributing. That's the first thing. So that's, to Steven's point, why it's encouraging to see what we've seen in the second half, but I think it's still okay to question how sustainable it is. That's the first thing. The second thing, to Steven's point about walking consistently and hitting homers consistently, is the one thing that does is that it makes the margin of error for the pitchers to work with so much smaller, which plays into what the Braves can do. Because if you're consistently making pitchers work out of the stretch with the worry of runners on base, but you're also consistently taking advantage of taking their mistakes deep, that's where you're going to excel as an offense. That's what really helped the Braves out in 2023. And if you can get those two things working, not only does it matter over sustaining your offense over a 6-month sample size, that also is a very good remedy, or a very good mixture of success to find wins in October when it matters most.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget watching the 2022 series versus the Mets at the very end of the season, when the Braves and the Mets were in this, titanic battle for the division. The Braves had come all the way back. The Mets were coming to town. They had DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett lined up to pitch in that series. And the Braves just beat them with homers. Like Dansby Swanson homered in every game. Matt Olson homered in every game. Austin Riley hit a couple of homers. Like, those guys didn't make a lot of mistakes, those pitchers, I mean, but the ones they made, the Braves put them in the seats. And that's how you beat good pitching. And that's what I mean by sustainability. You don't need 9 guys in your lineup getting hot at the same time to score runs when you're hitting homers. You just need 1 or 2 guys and a couple of guys taking walks. And you can survive the cold streaks, because let's be honest, we know by now this offense, the collection of players it has, they're going to go through the individual players are going to go through some massive cold streaks. Michael Harris is going to go through massive cold streaks. Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Shawn Murphy, Ozzie Albies, they're all streaky as hell. I mean, they're going to go through crazy cold streaks. How do you survive that? You hit homers, because then you don't need 9 guys hitting. You only need 2 or 3 guys hitting. The thing the Braves have missed the last couple of years is the home run ball, right? When you're not hitting homers, you need 4 or 5 or 6 guys in your lineup hitting. When you're hitting homers, you don't. And that's what this lineup was built on. It was built on, okay, we got a bunch of streaky hitters, but they're going to hit a ton of homers. So that's how we survive. And that's what I kind of want to get back to, quite honestly, because this last 2 years of trying other stuff, we live and die too much on the homer. We need to try other stuff. That hasn't worked. It just hasn't. And what they've done the last 6 weeks is fun, but again, I just don't buy it. If Michael Harris is going to be the best player in baseball, then yeah. I mean, maybe they could sustain it, but does anybody really buy that's going to be the case over a 6-month sample? I don't. Jurickson Profar I think will help a lot. I think Jurickson is a big piece of this going into next year. Maybe one of the biggest outside of Austin Riley, but having Acuna, Olson, Riley, Baldwin, Murphy, Profar, whoever's DHing, having Harris, Ozzie, having those guys hit homers and take walks, I think that's how you sustain an offense for 6 months. And I know people are going to push back on that. I know people think they lived and died by the homer too much, but when they were doing that, when they were living and dying by the homer too much, they were one of the best offenses in baseball. And ever since they stopped doing that, they've been a very mediocre offense at best. So, I mean, you tell me, was it really all that bad? Wouldn't you just gladly take that again? The 2022, I'm not even talking about the 23 offense, the 2022 offense, where they were still one of the best offenses in baseball. And yeah, they lived and died by the homer, but they were still one of the best offenses in baseball. Ever since they've gone to this new stuff of kind of de-emphasizing the homer, they've been a mediocre offense at best, and sometimes one of the worst in the sport. So I want to see them go back to hit homers and take walks. And I think that's how you sustain for 6 months and survive the cold streaks from the individual players that are going to inevitably come with this collection of hitters.
And never forget how much of a role hitting that homer at crucial times played in the Braves 2021 World Series run. I know that we're
100%,
now
100%.
nearly 4 years away from that, but I label the World Series run for the Braves the bombs in the bullpen. Their ability to hit homers consistently and their ability to limit from that bullpen was the two biggest keys to their success. So, but yeah, The homers will come. I do believe that the homers will come, but at the end of the day, it is great to see what we're seeing. And I do think that this team, it has taken a significant step forward in terms of bettering their overall approach to the plate in crucial moments and taking walks from a year ago. But you've got to get your best players back. And I think that's a big key. When we talk about hitting more home runs, your three best home run hitters, Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Matt Olson, you need them hitting homers. And hopefully through a healthy offseason, we'll get that back. Steven, anything else from you as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast?
Nope, we're moving into September. Listen, it's not the season the Braves wanted. It's not going to be quite the same fire and energy in every game as we're used to at this time of year when they're fighting for a playoff spot. But we're going to cover the team just the same, right? We're going to cover the team four shows a week, just like we have been. There's going to be storylines that matter into the offseason. We're probably going to get into some more big picture stuff in September, about the 2025 roster, the 2026 roster, the offseason, potential moves. It'll probably be a little bit more big picture stuff in September, but still, we're going to cover the team exactly the same. So we appreciate you guys, as always, listening, downloading. It's a big help to us, and we do appreciate it.
Plus, as time goes along, we're going to have, big time revelations, from all of us that are going to make it worth you tuning into. For instance, I'll go ahead and, let a little secret be known. When it comes to me and Steven, many know that I am a diehard Vols fan, and Steven is a diehard Alabama fan. Well, I'm in a bit of a conundrum this year because it just so happens that Alabama's starting quarterback, Ty Simpson, is from my high school alma mater. He won a state title for my high school where I went in Tennessee. So I'm bought in a bit to Alabama's success for Ty Simpson being successful. I still hate Bama. I still want him to lose every single game while he has a good game, especially against Tennessee. But that's the type of dilemmas that we're facing. That's the type of stuff that normally we would not have to worry about if the Braves were playing successful baseball. But we have to face those realities this year. So interesting topics like that will certainly also take up time when it comes to the Hammer Territory podcast, and can't thank you enough for tuning in for these revelations that at other points in time I would not feel so comfortable discussing.
And your quarterback is at UCLA? No, wait. What happened to your quarterback?
That he went to UCLA.
Yeah, he went to UCLA. But you got UCLA's quarterback.
We did get UCLA's
You
quarterback.
guys made it like a trade.
We did make a trade.
I'm sure that'll be fine.
It should be fine. We've gone through a lot of change here recently when it comes to the Vols. Some bad, some good. What's y'all's record over the past 3 years versus Tennessee? Thanks so much for tuning into this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast. You can find Steven at B_outliers on Twitter/X. My name's Shawn Coleman. You can find me at Stats SAC on Twitter/X as well. Hammer Territory across all forms of social media, part of the Foul Territory family of podcasts. Listen, we're here to have fun. At the end of the day, we're here to have fun. We're here to talk Braves, have fun, banter back and forth a little bit, but give you the most entertaining coverage of the team that we possibly, and informative coverage of the team that we possibly can. Until next time, go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast.